planning board meeting for September 13th, 2017. Thank you, everyone, for coming. On the agenda tonight, really, we're just going to discuss zoning issues. What's first?
I don't know if we want to wait till George, but I have dates from Judy Barrett to do the, to start on the duplex study. So what Judy wants to do is, there's 3 dates. We tried to find a date in October, and she's involved with a lot of, she still has her consulting, obviously she has a consulting business behind her, but she has, there's a lot of special town meetings on the South Shore that she represents, that she works in those towns, so October is jam for her. So she has 3 dates in November, if people want to check those. Wednesday, November 8th, Tuesday the 14th, and Wednesday the 15th. And what she would like to do is prior, if you can have a meeting that night, that would be great, because prior to the meeting, what she would like to do, starting in the late afternoon, is meet with each one of you for about half an hour.
Hey, George.
And, hi, George.
Hey, George.
Meet with each one of you for about half hour, and then we'll go into the meeting.
Okay.
If people are available that one of those nights, or if you're all available.
All those nights work for me, actually.
I'm away the week of the 8th, so it should be the 14th or the 15th.
And we have a meeting the 7th, so you're gone the 7th too? So we need to reschedule that meeting on the 7th anyway, it sounds like.
The 15th is not good for me, the 14th is.
And I don't think the 14th is good for me, and the 15th is.
Yeah. I'd have to schedule an appointment that I have from 5 to 7, that's why. George, we're looking at the 14th or 15th of November with Judy Barrett to talk about zoning.
I'm
But during the
clueless as
day.
to my schedule right now.
Yeah.
During the day, I can certainly make that.
She said starting, she didn't give me time. I think she was looking at probably like starting around 4, getting into town and then meeting with each one of you for half an hour.
So she can meet with you first.
Yeah, I can't do during normal business hours, so it would have to be on the later side for me,
Yeah.
but
Is your 5 o'clock meeting out of town?
And she
No,
had
it's in
days
town, so I
that-
can meet from her to 4 to 4:30.
Yeah, so if you meet with her first,
4 to 4:30, and then,
what day you can't do the Tuesday, but you can do the Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday's up in the air.
Okay, so why don't we, how about Wednesday the 15th,
Okay.
and you can start with Michelle.
All right, so Michelle, we'll start with you at 4.
uh-huh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'd have to be out of here by 4:45.
okay, so we're moving the meeting from the 7th to the 15th.
And then we'll have a regular planning board meeting with Judy that
Right.
night, that staying here, that works for people, or coming back at 7.
Can you come back for a 7 o'clock meeting?
Uh-huh,
Yeah, you may be a little bit late, but
You don't think she wants to
we'll take
try
care
to
of this first.
have them back right into the meeting?
Yeah, yeah.
She's not going to want to leave, or, oh, but you're saying because people are only here for a half hour at a
Yeah.
time, that we would go home, but, okay,
Yeah.
yep. But she would bump, her last appointment would be 6:30 to 7?
Yeah,
If I could do the 6:30 to 7, or 6 to 6:30, that would be best for me, but,
okay, why don't I put you in 6 to 6:30, Leslie?
okay.
And then that way, she's got half an hour to, organize.
Okay, all right.
Your comments.
Is that okay with you?
That's fine with me.
If I do the 6, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so who wants other time slots?
George, do
What's
you,
open?
4:30, 5:30.
I'll take 5:30.
what's good for you, Amy?
Whatever Teresa doesn't want, I'm open.
they're all bad for
So you're doing 5:30, you're doing 5:30 to 6?
Well, that's what George
Yes.
said.
Yeah,
that's what I have.
so Teresa's doing, oh, yeah, so it actually works
So
out well.
4:30 or 5.
4:30 to 5, or 5 to 5:30.
I thought Michelle was doing 4:30 to 5.
She's doing
I'm
4 to
doing 4
4.
to
Oh, 4 to
4:30.
4, okay, got it.
Why don't I do 4:30 to 5?
And I'll do 5 to 5:30, and if anyone has to switch, I can switch.
This was a lot easier than we thought it was going to be. Good.
Okay, and where's those meetings will be here?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm, barring anyone, there's usually, Wednesdays aren't a big night for meetings here, so I'm assuming just like tonight, there was no problem getting this room. So, you know, we'll assume that we're gonna be in this room, unless I let you know otherwise.
Okay.
So, okay, so that's as far as the duplex.
So just to clarify, we're also gonna change our regular meeting from the week before to that night as well?
Yes.
Okay, okay, excellent, thank you.
So are we still going to meet the following Tuesday then? So we want to look at that one too? So we're meeting on the 15th, and then we'd be meeting on the 21st.
And are we in November? I'm not around that week.
The 21st?
Yeah,
Okay. So
It's the Thanksgiving holiday.
yeah, yep.
So for now, we'll just keep it for one in November, say November 15th.
That'd be great.
Is Judy just doing two meetings or just one, that one
Two
day?
meetings.
Yeah.
That's in the contract, is 2 meetings.
Okay.
So it'll be that night, and then she'll do another one.
Okay, great.
While we're looking at schedules, October, you want to keep your October schedule?
I can't make
Oh, that's right,
Tuesdays.
Amy, I'm sorry.
And Teresa probably can't make, I think the 17th, we have parent-teacher conference at the high school. I think I'll,
Goes to those. No, I'm just kidding. I forgot, we were on record. Yes, I go to every single one. I've never missed a parent-teacher conference. I'm just being obnoxious, I'm sorry. So, are you saying that we're both busy, the 3rd and the 17th?
on the 17th, I
Oh,
think
the
we're both
17th.
busy.
Okay. Can we do the 3rd? Can you do the 3rd?
I can't. I mean, I'd rather do like the 11th or the 4th. And the only,
Well, we're first and third Tuesday
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, I mean,
We
you
keep
can.
moving this around.
I know
so
the only reason why I am for September and October is my daughter is on the varsity soccer team, and their games are Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she's a senior, and I don't want to miss any of them. In the
They're
third,
at
she's
4 in the afternoon.
no, she's at Wachusett at 7 o'clock that night. I already checked. So, but after October, I'll be fine for the rest of the year.
So in October, do you want to look at those Wednesdays? Michelle, I don't know if your appointment.
Do we have any applications coming up?
No.
So it
no,
would just be
not-
zoning.
Right. Yep.
so I think we should meet on the 3rd, but we could try, what about the 24th instead of the 17th? Because there's actually 5 Tuesdays in October.
I will be in Haiti the week of the 23rd.
Okay,
Yeah, and I can't do it any Tuesday.
okay.
Okay.
So I guess we could try Wednesday, the 18th.
Yep, that's fine.
I have some other appointments I could probably move around, but I do have a couple other commitments that day, that evening. But I could possibly juggle things a little. But it's not ideal. I would have to move 2 things to make it happen.
October 4?
No, it'd be October 3rd, trying to stay consistent with our 1st and 3rd, but on the 3rd, make it to the Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So
Because we need to get through the zoning.
Yeah, we're gonna get the zoning out of the
Yeah.
way, so Wednesday,
Can we do,
October
can we do
4.
the 19th?
October 4th?
Well, I thought you wanted to keep, I thought we were
Amy's
saying
not
keep the
gonna
3rd.
be- Amy's not gonna be
Okay, October 4th works fine for me.
Okay.
here. George?
You said you couldn't make October 3rd either.
Right, every game is Tuesdays and Thursdays.
At
I'm
night?
actually, yep, 5 or 7.
Oh, wow.
But I checked the 3rd was at 7 in Wachusett. And I'm the photographer for the team, too.
Yeah, I agree, we shouldn't be moving all of our
I know.
meetings. One a month, I think would be fine, but to move both, I think, probably is
So-
not ideal.
We'll do Wednesday, October 4th.
Okay, so we're moving that one to the 4th.
I have all my duplex information I wanted to talk about tonight. I could talk about it tonight. if-
But hold on one second. Parent-teacher conferences start in the afternoon
I don't know, I thought they were at night.
and go into the evening, I thought. Isn't it a half-day of school?
Yeah, that's how they.
I don't know, it's
Yeah,
at the
that's
high
all.
school.
All right.
Yeah, that's how they've always done it.
Can we
Still
table the
do-
17th for a minute? Because if this is a half-day, then parent-teacher con can, I think we owe it to the rest of the board members.
That's fine.
To try and schedule our parent-teacher conferences during the day.
Right, I still can't go,
And-
because I'd have a soccer game at night, too.
Okay.
But you guys can.
Yeah, it sounds like, well, why don't we just go ahead and schedule it then for the 17th?
Okay, so
Keep it at the
We'll just-
17th.
We'll do it on the regularly scheduled.
We're looking at October 4th, October 17th,
Yep.
and then November 15th.
Yes, ma'am. Does that work? Okay. George, think you're okay with that?
I'm thinking so.
Okay. Obviously, if there's something, if something comes up,
Yeah. Okay.
just email, if you email Kathy, she'll let us know, we can change everything. Okay, good.
All right, so that's, I mean, I figured, Amy, you just mentioned you have some duplex information, but.
Right.
I mean, I would think that you know, any conversation you're gonna have about duplexes, you'd wanna have with your consultant.
Okay, I was gonna share it with you beforehand, and I was gonna share it with everybody if they're interested, but,
And
because,
that's up to, you know, Teresa, but that's just my
right,
thought, was that, you know, whatever you're discussing, you know, should be with a consultant,
right.
you know.
Yeah, so why don't you, bring it through with Judy Barrett first, and then, that way she can kind of filter it in a way that makes sense
Right.
for us to, so we can consolidate it and take care of it
It,
all.
I really condensed it to one page.
Oh my gosh.
I did, for today, this took me 2 days to do, to condense it all down to, it actually goes on to the second page just a little.
Just, oh,
But,
Should have widened
it's
those
because you have a
margins.
chart.
I did want to share it, at least with Kathy beforehand, or Judy beforehand, so she would, it's hard to go into the meeting and then, With
I don't
Judy,
think there's no issue with doing that, right?
Oh, no,
Yeah, yeah.
I said that to Amy, if she wanted to get it
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
and, you know, I can, you know, make copies for everybody, get it, you know, to Judy.
Yep.
Um,
That's
I'm
fine.
just thinking you probably don't wanna have, you know, like any kind of in-depth conversation, you
Right.
know, without Judy here, so.
Right. That's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, why don't you just plan to give it to Kathy and she'll get it over
Sure.
to Judy, and
Yeah.
then when we meet after that, we can all review it. Yes?
Can I just say something? What would be really helpful is, we had extensive discussions on the duplexes, and I can't remember a lot of, you know, exactly what we discussed. Amy had done some research, George, you had some recommendations, everyone else had recommendations. Is there any way you can compile that and pull that together so we can just review what we were all thinking about last year, and then,
I think it's in the minutes, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can pull the minutes,
So just
I
throw
can
them.
have Deb just put whatever night
But just
we
that-
all talked about it.
right?
And,
Because remember, you talked about what you had found out from Shrewsbury and
yeah,
Westboro, and
I
then,
can, you
yeah.
know, give you copies of
Right.
that again.
and then what you had recommended, and then George, you had some recommendations or concerns, and then Amy had hers, and, because if we can see it all together, then we can share with Judy.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yep, I can do that for the,
Okay.
prior to the November meeting.
I think that would be helpful.
mine was a lot, so you probably don't want to pull all mine, because I did condense it into one easy page,
Okay,
just to make it easier, because I had a lot that one meeting. And I tried to condense it to the most important things.
okay.
Okay, then the other thing, two other zoning, questions or, that we've talked about so far. Obviously, the, recreational marijuana, moratorium, and the, you know, however or whatever the board needs from me, I put a copy of the latest Copeland and Page summary, you know, in front of everyone. We had looked at that a couple of meetings ago. And just in a real short summary, if the way that the governor's bill has, you know, came to be, or, you know, what the, one of the biggest results of it was that, you know, we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, that if the town had voted negatively on question 4, which Northborough did, then that's, those towns that voted no have one process. If they want to prohibit recreational marijuana, they can do it through their Board of Selectmen and through local, you know, ordinances. Town council recommends, and you'll see that in this handout, they recommend doing both the zoning, if you wanted to prohibit it. They recommend doing both a zoning bylaw to prohibit it and a general bylaw to prohibit it. You know, this is all brand new information and legislation, nothing's been tested. So right now, that's where town council stands, is they're recommending to their clients that if you want to move forward with prohibiting it, then you should do 2 votes. And then, obviously, there's another process for towns that voted in favor of it, of question 4, then they have to do a ballot and a local ordinance. So they have to go an extra step. That's up until December of 2019. And then if the towns, let's just use us, if we haven't done anything by December, forget our moratoriums, we'll put that aside for a second. So if the town doesn't move forward and enact something, after December 2019, any town that wants to prohibit it then has to go both, has to do a local ordinance and a ballot. But right now, we have, basically a year and a half, well, 2 years, sort of, but a year and a half.
Well, I don't know if we really have a year and a half, because after April 1st, they can start going in if we don't do anything.
Well, that's true, but I'm just, there's just one process in general.
Right.
That if town wants to prohibit it, that's the end deadline that you have if you want to prohibit it locally, and we need to pass 2 bylaws. So, as Amy said, the Cannabis Control Commission, they are supposed to have guidelines in place by the middle of March of 2015. So they were all appointed on time. They were supposed to be appointed by September 1st, and they were. They are supposed to have guidelines and regulations in place by March of 2018, and then they can begin accepting licenses, applications for licenses, beginning April 1st, 2018. So that's the state process.
I have a question. In the past, the term opting out has been discussed. Is that the same thing, or is that different?
Opting out?
Yeah, maybe it was Amy
Yeah,
that used
opting out
the,
is
used
to
the,
prohibit it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be the same as, where you're either gonna say yes, they can
okay,
come, or no,
okay.
they can't.
I just heard the term opt out before. I wasn't sure if that was different, because you said you could opt out and then you could opt back in, and I didn't
You can
understand.
opt back in if
Yeah,
the
okay.
selectmen decide we want to wait a year, see what happens, let's wait and see, they can vote on it next year and opt back in, which is what Westboro said they were going to do. They wanted to do the wait and see, let's see what happens over the next year. We can always opt in, but if you don't opt out, once they start coming in, they're grandfathered and they're there forever.
And the numbers, just, that's not just because towns have done it one way or the other, doesn't determine what Northborough is going to do. But so far, there's about 30 towns, between towns and cities, that have banned recreational marijuana. They've either gone to the ballot. That's what most of them did, because that was before the governor passed his bill. And then there's, as of spring, now there's other people having fall town meetings, but as of last spring, there's about 80 communities that have adopted moratoriums, and obviously we're one of those. So the next thing, the next, kind of step in this is, we established the moratorium, the moratorium was approved at town meeting. Now it's, what do you as a board want to put forward? Do you want to put forward local regulations? Right now, we don't have any guidance from the state. And I think that any community that's going to start working on regulations, then obviously we're going to need the assistance of town council, but we're going to be on our own, because the state doesn't have to do this until March. And, at that point, it's too late for us to get anything, for town meeting. So, what the board needs to, you know, not tonight, but I mean, what the board needs to start to think about is whether or not you want to come up with a regulation to allow recreational marijuana facilities, and then if so, where? You know, we'll look at a zoning district. I mean, exactly what we did with medical marijuana. You know, do you want to allow it? If you do, where? And then kind of what parameters do you want to put on it? So that's, you know, one branch to go, and then the other branch would be is if you wanted to, and this is perfectly legitimate under a moratorium, if you decide, you know what, we want to pursue prohibiting this, to new, to unknown, you know, lots of unknowns out there. Do you want to look at prohibiting it? And then what I think your next course of action would be is then making a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Because again, you know, town council is recommending that you should have two prongs. You should have the zoning and the local ordinance, and the Board of Selectmen would be the likely board to do the local ordinance.
Have the Board of Selectmen been discussing this as well?
No, they have not. No, they have not at this point.
And extending the moratorium is not an option?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. The Attorney General's office last year did approve some towns an 18-month moratorium, because what they wanted to do was, they made the case that they wanted to wait until their fall. A lot of towns have special fall town meetings, or a lot of towns actually have a fall town meeting and a spring town meeting. Some towns, they do just zoning and, you know, other matters in the fall, and then just all budget in the spring. It's different for every community. So the Attorney General's office did approve some towns to have 18 months. But extending that, that's new territory right now. So there's not a yes or a no answer to that.
So is there a distinction between manufacturing and retail sales? I guess the question is, can we make a distinction between them, so whereas we may allow one but not the other?
It's a very
You can. I'm pretty sure you can. You can pick, there are 4 things. It's like cultivation, retail, distribution. There are 4 different things I think you can choose from.
Okay.
And you can allow one or none or
Some? Okay.
you can limit the number. You don't have to allow it ever in town. You can say, we only want one.
Yeah,
You can say that there's one medical one coming in on Lawrence Street. You can say, well, that one would be allowed to do recreational, but no others.
No, that one hasn't,
hasn't gone through yet?
passed the state process yet.
Okay.
They haven't come back yet.
I thought they were going to be cultivation.
Their
That
cultivation.
was originally, when it's been approved as through the Department of Public Health, is medical marijuana
And
cultivation.
you can only do one, right? You can only do one or the other?
No, you can also do sales and cultivation,
The same,
but medical.
just for men, okay.
But there are changes in some of the laws, like a lot of the medical, I think I read is going to go away, and you can do recreational and medical in the same facilities. Like if they don't get enough applications, I forgot what it was, but at the beginning, when it all starts, a lot of the applications are going to go to the medical people first that have already started the process, and then they'll take applications from others.
If you want to look at, I think what starts to answer that original question, Teresa, the bottom of page 2 where it talks about prohibitions and limitations permitted by bylaws. So there's the prohibiting the operation of one or more types of marijuana establishments, limiting the number of marijuana retailers, and then limiting the number of any type of marijuana establishment to fewer than the number of medical marijuana treatment centers registered. And we don't have any. You know, again, they've received their state approval, but they have not moved forward. And that was over a year ago.
So the way that that's written, if we only have one medical marijuana establishment, where it says fewer than, we could have 0 recreational.
That's how I
You are a
read it.
mathematical wizard.
It's been 46 years. It's a struggle. Every day is a struggle. Okay.
So attention until like fifth grade math. When you're an engineer, you do this all the time. Give us a break with our percentages.
I mean, I would recommend we opt out at the beginning, because you can always opt back in. We're one of the 9 communities where our residents voted no. And all our surrounding towns, well, not all of them, but Southborough, Westborough, Hopkinton, Holliston, they've already all voted no. Shrewsbury, I think, will go forward this fall. They have a moratorium right now, too, right?
Yeah, I think they just had their fall town meeting, but it wasn't on their fall.
Okay.
Shrewsbury's opting out?
Well, no, they're talking about
They
it.
have a moratorium right now.
They have a moratorium, but Hannah Kane, who's big on the commission, was from Shrewsbury, and they voted no, too, in the general election.
Do we know what the number of votes up and down on the election?
I
Time
can
of the
easily
election?
get them tomorrow. I think it was about 100 that was the difference. 100 more favored
Voted no.
voting no.
How many people voted?
That I
200?
I'm sorry.
Right, so this is-
No, it's a significant amount. I can get those numbers tomorrow.
Okay.
And from the town clerk and send those to you.
Okay, that would be good.
So Amy, you're saying that Westboro, Southborough, Hopkinton, all the neighboring
All
communities
said.
have already opted out?
Yep, they already prohibited it. And they said they're just erring on the side of caution, because you can always opt in. And what Westboro said is our community is, we have a very strong safety school, families, and they move here for the schools and the families, and they felt the character of the community right now would be to opt out. They said, does marijuana establishments, does that fit in with the character of your community? But they said you can always opt back in. Like, why be the only one in the area right now that's going to opt in?
I don't
Charlton,
think that should be
actually.
a basis for our decision at all. I don't think why, that being a
No.
lemming,
Well, Charlton voted in. There are some. Milford's talking about
to me,
it.
I don't consider that to be, I guess, valid or something that should be influencing us, in my opinion. But it's not something I'll support. I mean, I have given it a lot of thought since I said I was inclined not to support it way back when, but I would not support the prohibition. I mean, it's a state law. We live with our state laws all the time. Is there any precedence for a town overriding a state law based on their own?
Yeah, because the state law gave us that right. The state law said the towns who voted no have the right to opt out. So
Well-
it is our right.
I'm not saying it's not our right. I'm just saying, I don't see it as, I don't see this as I consider it to be the boogeyman. It's like everybody's afraid of this, and I don't think it's something to fear. So I guess
It's, I think there's two different perspectives. There's my children are still very young, and we have so many teenagers in crisis with drug and alcohol abuse. Why make this available to them? And why put them in harm's way, unintentionally perhaps, versus, as an adult, there may be adults out there who feel as though they're mature and they should be able to do this, and they don't want their freedoms restricted. And this town has told us over and over again through their votes that they don't like having restrictions on them.
I guess I don't know.
It's, yeah, so I'm just saying there's gonna be a balance on this. The reason why I was curious as to the, how close the vote, how many people actually voted and how close this vote was, is because if it really is only 100 people and we had like 8,000 people voting, this is really tight. And, I think that we would need more information from the public as to really how they feel about this before we try and push a bylaw through. Either that or we just have to put competing bylaws through and see which one wins.
And I contend, and I don't have data to back it up, but I contend that having it be available recreationally, it's controlled. I think that the idea that it's 21 and over, you compared it to alcohol. We don't have prohibition of alcohol. We don't have prohibition of CVS pharmacy. But the marijuana that's going to be out there will be more controlled, I think, different kind of product. And part of the issue through the years has been that marijuana has been laced with all sorts of other things. And I think that tendency will go away when it's more controlled instead of anyway, so
There's
just not-
definitely a lot of benefits, as you point out, to being able to control it legislatively or through our bylaws. Absolutely. My concern is that this is a community where people come to raise their children because we have a really good school system.
But that,
And so for all the legitimacy of your arguments, it's gonna take some real convincing of those people who really only see the fear of, the heroin epidemic. And that this is, that there's a lot of people who, for right or wrong, consider this a gateway drug.
but it's wrong, so I don't want to,
But so
Reinforce-
are you prepared, though, to speak to the citizens and say, it's wrong, and this is why it's wrong?
well, I don't have to speak to the citizens, I mean, I have to speak to individual people who approach me, but I'm not offering to get up in some public forum. and-
Right, but I mean, if you think that it's going to, if it's, as a planning board member, let's put it that way, as a planning board member, if it's that important to you, that we pass something allowing it, then I think you would want to be prepared to try and quell the nerves of those people who come in here and say, I don't want my children exposed to this, I don't want this in my town. And I think you have to be able to rationally explain to them how their concerns aren't necessarily as well-founded as they feel they are.
Yeah, and I don't have the facts behind it to,
Right.
to back that up, but I don't,
But I
that's,
think that's the problem we're gonna run up against. That would be my concern, that's why I'm kind of curious as to the numbers.
I guess I hate to, because it's, I think it's an irrational fear, I don't, as a planning board member, I feel it's my duty not to reinforce irrational fears and not to coddle
Absolutely.
irrational fears, and I do believe there are irrational
Absolutely.
fears.
And
So
I
that's-
agree
so
with
that's-
you. I absolutely agree with
Yeah.
you. You just have to be able to explain that.
Yeah.
Like, that your fear is, you can't say your fear
Everybody
is
out there
irrational, but but you'd have to explain,
Yeah.
like, this is the data. It's
Right.
not, what you're saying doesn't necessarily
And I don't have the, I
conform with
mean,
reality.
so, I mean, that's a question then. So we hire consultants all the time. If we do decide to go forward with it, would it be possible to get some data that's not, we're not experts, would it be possible to get some sort of defense materials or explanatory, whatever, some support materials?
I would, just like any subject out there, I would assume that there are, to begin with, organizations or boards or nonprofits or whatever that, have information that we can start off with.
The problem with those is that for everyone that you're gonna find as proponent, you're gonna find the opposing view, like you do with anything, I guess. So you end up cherry picking, and that's where I wouldn't wanna do it myself, because
Right.
you wanna be objective, right? So
Right.
it's what's called confirmation bias, right? So you're not, you're always sort of looking for things that confirm your own. And I'd like to think I'd be objective, but I wouldn't want to take that responsibility on. So I think Teresa has a great point. So we should be prepared to defend it, but not me personally. No, I don't have that data, and I don't have the objectivity to even
Right.
put myself in that position. But I think it's a good point that we should be prepared for that if we
Right.
get to
I
that.
think that, I do think that it's something that, this is one subject that we might want to get more from the people who will hear more from them
Yeah,
to
having
help guide us through.
an open, I would definitely want to have an open
Right.
hearing, I guess.
I
Public
would,
hearing.
you may or may not want to, talk with the selectmen, I mean, I can certainly, if this is the, how you want, possibly how we want to pursue this, if you want to meet with the selectmen, but, given that they would need to, again, if you're gonna go to prohibiting it,
Right.
but, even if you're not gonna go to prohibiting it, I think, this is gonna become probably a bigger discussion, and do you want to involve the selectmen at this point, or?
So make sure I understand, I want to make sure I understand the process. The selectmen can prohibit it without our permission, or is that not?
Well, originally, the way, and the way that, well, two things. When the governor, had his bill that had been approved, originally, all sort of the conversation about that was, that the Board of Selectmen, if the town voted no on 4, the Board of Selectmen could then just pass an ordinance and say, we're prohibiting this, end of story. The way that I read this memo from Copeland and Page, again, is that they're suggesting that the town, even prohibit it, that you do 2 votes. That you
Okay.
have a zoning bylaw, which obviously needs town meeting, and you also have a general bylaw change, general code change. And I believe that also needs town meeting.
Okay, so those both are town meeting, neither is the board, in the hands of the Board of Selectmen at that
I
point then.
believe that a general code, which is, anything that is changed in the general code other than zoning, you know, goes through the Board of Selectmen. But I believe that also has to go to town meeting.
Would it be possible to poll the audience at the selectmen's meeting to see if they are for or against allowing this in the town? Just as an informal kind of.
I mean, I can certainly, you know, talk to the town administrator.
I mean, poll
For
it.
medical
The audience or
marijuana?
the?
No,
or
the Board of Selectmen.
Board,
Oh,
you said the
yeah.
audience.
And
Because
the
there is-
Board of
there's
Selectmen
never an
will
audience.
decide
Yeah, where they
Poland.
stand on it.
On recreational marijuana. My guess at this point will be, probably just as you're all struggling, that they probably don't have enough information to, you know, put forth a, you know, recommendation at this point, but that's just my guess.
For medical marijuana, there was a joint meeting in the library that was called, and it was for the public,
Marijuana.
the selectmen, and everybody. They had a big public meeting, but only 2 of us showed up. I was one, and then a man who wanted to open up a facility to sell it. We were sitting side by side. So, I mean, but that could be something the selectmen could do, is call a public meeting in the library, invite the other boards, invite the public.
Don't call it a joint meeting, though.
That's true.
Or do.
There is a lot of information for anybody, the planning board, the selectmen, the Central Mass Planning. I mean, there's been a lot of meetings, they've taped them all. There've been police chiefs there, fire chiefs, there've been planners from all over. They have a lot of information, all the data. Like, I think it would be hard to find a consultant right now that wasn't swayed, because you either have the pro group or the against group, and they're both gonna, so I don't think there are any consultants out there right now, because we've been to the Central Mass Planning and everybody's new and talking about it. And they have gone down to Colorado and Oregon, and they've brought all back information, but it's all up there on the Central Mass Planning site.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Ton of information.
Yeah, I mean, it's all overwhelming, but, you know, for anyone that's interested, you know, you can start to cull through it.
But what people have to learn is, like, I know it doesn't sound like marijuana doesn't sound like bad, and adults, this isn't gonna make it illegal in the town. Anyone over 21 can still grow up to 2 plants in their house, they can still smoke it in their house, or whatever they wanna do. It's not gonna make it illegal. It's just not going to have, Northborough won't be selling it here.
It's six plants, by the way.
Huh?
It's 6 plants.
Is it 2 per adult? I thought it was 2 per
No,
adult.
six
I can't
or
remember.
12
6 per
plants.
adult. All right, so I'm gonna
6,
get
well, up to
confused.
12 per household.
Yeah, so that's a lot. I mean, the policeman at the meeting I went to said if you did have 6 per adult in your house, by the end of the year, if you were a really good grower, you'd have 500 pounds if you saved it all. Like, I don't know how many people have done the numbers. But then their big conversation of that is like, all right, now how do they dispose of it? Because that's more than they could ever handle, but that's a talk for another day. But there is a lot of information out there. And the other information they said is when people first hear marijuana, they picture buds and leaves, and what these stores would bring to your town are also edibles and drinks and lollipops and gummy bears. And like, if you take Advil or Tylenol, you take 2 and they know the dosage. The doctors that came out in front, you don't know what the dosage is of a lot of these things. Like, a lot of those little gummy fish are actually a serving of 4, which is why kids get sick. And that's why towns are opting out just to begin with, just to see what happens down the line and what the other towns do and the changes that are made. And say in a year or 2, edibles are not allowed in towns, and you can opt back in and you can choose, do I want edibles, do I want buds? Like, to go in and be the first one, I'm not trying to sound an alarm, be scared, but you're gonna be open to everything. There's something called shatter. Google that. That will be allowed in the stores, and it's really very, very strong. It's like a liquid that they take out of the marijuana, and they make this glass, and it's like candy, rock, it's like butter crunch or whatever. But I mean, it's really, really, really strong. And right now, the way it's coming through, there's no regulations on these. So if you say, yes, our town allows them, then you're opening up to everything. You can't limit and say, well, I don't want things that are marketed towards kids. You're open to it all.
But you're also responsible as an adult. You're responsible for making sure that even if it looks like a kid thing, you're responsible for making sure that it's not available. So you want to
Right.
talk about gun control?
So, no, we don't want to talk about gun
No, but-
control.
but it-
Thank
but-
you. That's
No, but
so-
it's-
No,
But
hold on.
give me a nanosecond to at least put it in your head. There is some comparison to be made with gun control. I'll leave it at that. But, okay, so it's the responsibility of an adult to make sure that adult things don't make it into the hands of children.
Right. So the question I have is, at this point, I haven't heard anything about regulations in terms of the manufacturing process. Like, what has to be on the label? Is there a labeling requirement? We have to identify calories and fat and protein and carbohydrates and all this stuff on regular food labels, but for marijuana, is there a content labeling requirement?
I
A
don't know,
labeling
but
requirement?
I can start to look into things.
Can we just,
Amy might help.
No, I don't even know that one.
yeah, so
Then I
there's,
start.
because it's not just the, you're mixing together corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup and food coloring, flavoring, and essential oil. You know, we don't know what else is going into that as well. So I don't know if there's a labeling requirement, if it's gonna be for public consumption through retail sale.
I know part of the zoning requirements are signs, like, do you want, some people don't have like the big flashing signs, or,
Right.
I know signs were part of the requirement, but yeah.
And, but if,
Vodka looks like water. I mean, there are, so,
but the bottles are labeled.
right, but,
And you can't buy it unless you're a certain age. I
Right,
think
which is the
there's-
same thing with
there's-
medical marijuana,
You
with
don't have to
recreational
convince
marijuana.
me that
Okay.
it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Okay.
That's like,
Okay.
you don't have to convince me. I'm just, I need to make sure that we have enough information to
Okay.
tell people who come before us, like, these are the concerns that we've thought about and we've raised and we've researched. And these are the answers that we have for you.
Okay.
That's kind of what I think about that, so.
is it possible to hear, I know what, Amy, we know what the three of us think, is it possible to hear from
Yeah.
George and?
So,
Oh.
that's where I was headed.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, it's all right. George, are you,
I am not opposed to marijuana, especially medical marijuana. I'm definitely in favor of allowing that. Recreation, I would probably allow it, perhaps restrict it, where you could sell it to certain locations or something
Right.
like out on Route 9 or something like that. But, I'm not necessarily opposed to it.
okay.
I'm more in line with following what the vote was, which was everyone voted no, and so considering maybe an opting out. I think it would be interesting to go back and see, when was that vote taken, when,
Last fall?
November.
November? So it'd be interesting to see, I don't know if they,
We can find the numbers,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I don't have my phone with me.
Oh, do you want me to take a second to do it, or do you rather
Oh,
not do
yeah,
it?
no, if you can find it online, that's
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely.
Yeah, it should be on the Attorney General's,
because I think if the public spoke, which is on a ballot, you're gonna get more of the public to speak on a ballot than you are at town meeting. And if the ballot was to opt out, pretty much your greater public sent a message from the town that way.
We did
But we
have a-
don't know the numbers, that's true.
We had a really packed town hall one year. Is
What-
that
When are the ballot questions for this November's election? Is there
I mean, for the spring town meeting?
no, is there an election this November?
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Is
I
it-
don't think so.
Nothing's
No,
up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's
There's an
not-
election in May. A
Right,
town
as far
regular,
as the state. I mean,
Yeah.
This was on
Or
a
you're talking
state.
about a state
This was
election.
on the state,
Yeah.
the statewide ballot in November.
right.
States,
Um,
even years.
And then,
Oh,
right,
okay.
even years, and then they, you know, because this subject, I mean, they do it on any ballot issue,
Yeah.
but, you know, whether it's recycling or,
Mhm.
you know, obviously they bring
Yeah.
out the yeses and the nos for each community.
So,
So it was
But there was a
no,
lot of attention paid on this particular subject, no
Right.
question about it, about what towns voted no and what towns voted yes.
I mean, I think when you look at the industries, even the alcohol industry, right? There's a certain maturity that's happened throughout that industry. I think the marijuana industry, I, much like George and probably most of the members of this board, feel that medical marijuana, yes, everyone agrees to that. But the other part of it, I think, is in its infancy stage, where a lot of people you just don't know, right? And so I do think that it's a little bit healthy for a community to just opt out. It's sort of like a pause. It's not, you can opt out and then go to ballot the next year for a town for a ballot throughout the town and saying, okay, now we have more data, what do you think now? And then you may find that the shift's starting to happen, the shift that you want to happen. But I really think it's just in the infancy stage. It's like Amy's talking about, it's you know how we say, it's like they're always ahead of you, right? So you don't want that crisis to happen because they're ahead of you with the clever marketing or whatever they do. Law enforcement doesn't know how to regulate it. I mean, everyone doesn't. And like George said, where do you put it? Do you put it out where we have our one gun shop and our X-rated store? That's where you put it, right? You know, see if someone wants to go out there, right? I mean, that's really your only option versus allowing it throughout the community because there's just so much concern about that. I just think it's in the infancy stage. I think it's in a stage where nobody really knows how to wrap their hands around it and manage it.
Well, that's why I supported the moratorium, and that's why I was asking if the moratorium could be, I think once you go to prohibition, going back, it's gonna be a difficult step. It's not gonna happen. I think, when we did the CPA, we said, we'll start it with a percentage and a half, and it's never changed, and it never will. Once you enact something, you have a tendency to stick with it. So I'd be more in support of extending a moratorium, because that's not prohibition, let's take a wait and see. So I would like to explore whether a moratorium would be an
Yeah, I
option.
mean, I
What,
could-
what question was it? Do you remember?
Four.
Yeah, so yes wins with 45-13, no 44-13, so it was exactly 100, and it was
45-13 to
44-13, so 9,000
But a
people.
win's a win, like
9,000
whoever wants to vote comes
No,
up.
that's, 9,000 people voted, and it was 100, so that's
That's right
not
down the middle.
not statistically significant, probably.
It's right down the middle. So that's why I think it's really important that we have as much data as we can in both directions on this. For me, I haven't made a decision whether I would support it or not coming into town. For me, the biggest issue on on recreational marijuana for retail sale is labeling on packages. That's just I think if the labeling were a requirement, so we knew exactly how much of, I don't even know what the active ingredient is, THC? I don't know what it is, but whatever that is. If we had some ideas, if there was some way to require that be put on packages before they even hit a retail shelf, I would feel far more comfortable with the idea of putting it out there, because then there's 6 servings in this one candy bar. But that's just one piece of the bigger puzzle, so. I'm sort of on the fence about it. I need more information all around, so.
The other thing about the moratorium, Kathy, is if we extended the moratorium for another year, what does that do in April when they start to take the applications through the state if a town has a moratorium?
Well, that in effect, your moratorium prohibits it,
Okay,
temporarily.
okay, it still does,
Right.
okay.
So I know just in general with moratoriums, we've never looked to extend one. I mean, we've had them few and far between. I would guess that the Attorney General's office, is going to look to, the case that you make as to why you weren't able to come up with regulations in a year, or why you weren't able to make a decision about, and again, whether it's recreational marijuana or
Right.
duplexes or, a water ban or something. I mean, why what factors prevented you from making a decision in a year?
Well, that's
What's
easy.
The
been-
fact that the state doesn't have
The state-
regulations, yeah, it doesn't, the state
That's
doesn't have
easy.
it.
The state doesn't have it, the state said they
Well,
don't.
I
Seems like we
don't
have-
know. I don't know, what's
Yeah,
considered valid. I think it's really all new territory.
Right.
I know,
I mean, even an 18-month moratorium was a shocker.
yeah.
They've never done 18-month moratoriums.
So maybe they'd be
So,
inclined to give us another 6 months, because that would be
So
the
the fact that but then that forces you into a special town meeting and,
Oh.
Right.
just,
You're putting
Right.
together zoning.
And that would probably have less
Right.
voters.
It's really difficult to do.
yeah, so, I mean, there's consequences
Yeah.
to
Right.
Yeah.
everything. But let me just see, if I can get some initial information about what it is, if a town says, yes to allowing this use, can you then put restrictions on it, as some of you were saying, can it, if things don't have to be labeled, can that be part of the bylaws, that they do have to be labeled, and things like that?
Can you limit
You're
the
s-
hours
You're
of
saying we can't
sales?
maybe
Can you
see what I
limit?
can find out.
You're saying we cannot prohibit edibles, or at least edibles that are made to look like
No, it's
candy,
either
or
you can sell it or you can't.
Yeah, they haven't,
Everything.
so far what I have read too, just like Amy said, it's either you're in or you're out.
I mean, the edibles do nag at me a little bit, not
So
enough
you-
to
so
change my
you
position,
either-
but it's,
You either allow it, it's another retail, product available to people, or you don't. But there doesn't seem to be, it can only, you can only allow it in liquid form and not in, solid form, or it has to be above a certain height on the counter or things like that. And I don't know enough at this point yet, but I don't know if an establishment gets created just to sell, recreational marijuana, or does an established store say, well, we also want to add recreational marijuana? And I don't even know if that makes a difference to people. So I don't know enough about what's going on in Oregon and Washington and Colorado. Is it just is the store solely that's
So
it?
just like a standalone,
Right, it's
this
just,
is our sole business is selling
right,
recreational marijuana
Yeah.
product.
I know liquor stores are trying to get in on it. Like, there are definitely stores that are trying to, but I don't think any decisions have been made.
do you have to be 21 to enter the store? Like, I mean, a liquor store, you can go in, you can take your kids into a liquor store, I assume? They're underage? I mean,
I think
they
so.
can't buy it, but they can come in with you.
I believe so.
So I wonder if kids are allowed into,
When we were doing the medical marijuana bylaw, was there a restriction? It was only one client could go into the facility at a time? I seem to remember some sort of restriction as to the number of people and the age of the person that could
Well,
go in.
I remember at least in-house, when we met with the cultivator that was considering coming to town, well, again, the cultivation is different, so they don't have public coming in.
Mhm.
But the couple of companies that did approach us about establishing a dispensary, it's, a lot of them talk about that it's by appointment, it's through a series of locked doors. I mean, our police chief always says it's, they're regulated, a medical facility is regulated more highly than a bank.
Yeah,
as
that's
far
what I
as-
thought.
Yeah.
I don't
so-
think retail's the same, though.
No, I don't think it's the same.
It's a
but-
store.
But to Teresa's question about the medical, I think the dispensaries were very, and obviously you're bringing in your prescription and.
Right.
And,
And my assumption is that was to safeguard the product from somebody who might want to go into that facility, commit a crime and steal it, as well as safeguard, because it's a
cash business.
cash-only
yeah.
business.
Which this
So
will
you're
be too.
safeguarding the people, and then the patients who go in there also have, some semblance of privacy as well as protection on their way in and out.
and I don't know, to answer your your comment, Leslie, I don't know if recreational is a cash-only business. I don't know,
I thought the whole issue with credit was that it's
Oh, yeah.
it's prohibited federally, so they can't.
but I don't know about now, I don't know if retail is different, if recreational is different. I don't know.
It's still a
Yeah,
federal
you
offense
think
to
it
buy
would be, but it has never been brought up in any of the meetings.
But it's gotta be. I mean, it's still a federal offense to buy it, so.
Right, and the credit
Shouldn't be
cards
able
are
to
federal,
buy-
but it's never been brought up that I've been at.
Right, so if it is a cash business and you're selling the same product just in a different form, why wouldn't the same safeguards want to be, or need to be put in place?
And it doesn't seem that way at all.
Right.
In the limited amount of reading that I have done, and, it's a huge topic to get up to speed on, and I'm certainly up for the task, however we want to pursue this. But I just don't have a lot of answers right now. But
okay.
I can certainly start to research that for you.
Yeah.
It could
But I really, they're just, in all the conversations that they've had about recreational marijuana, it's, any meetings that I've been at, I mean, probably the same with Amy, I think Amy's attended more than I have, but it's literally just, it's walking into a store. It's just walking into CVS, I mean, we keep using CVS, I shouldn't do that, but, you know, it's just walking into
Like
a
a liquor
store that's
store.
open to the general public. So that's the whole, I think that's you know, one of the big, conflicts that people might have is that, you know, medical marijuana is so regulated, you can't just, you know, walk into a clinic, you know, you have to have a prescription, you have to be a patient. Whereas recreational marijuana is just, you know, it's like walking into any retail store.
Like CVS, where they have massive quantities of drugs.
CVS
Well,
doesn't sell
substances.
cigarettes anymore, though. They said CVS doesn't sell cigarettes because they think that CVS wants to have a healthy look, you know, they're marketing towards health, and they think that cigarettes are bad for people and kids, so that's why they don't sell cigarettes, so.
But my point is, you walk into CVS, it's just you can walk into a liquor store. I mean, I'll stop saying it because I'm kind of beating a dead horse, but
Kathy, have any of the boards discussed this over the past year at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
And they haven't got to any of the meetings.
Did they discuss it last year? Didn't the Board of Selectmen take a vote
Not
on?
that I'm aware of.
They haven't discussed it at all?
The Westboro Police Chief was at the meeting I was at, and one reason he was against it was because before it was 2%, your town could charge 2% revenue, now it's 3%. But for 2%, and I'll do 3%, you're getting $30,000 for every $1 million worth of marijuana you sell. He said $30,000 would not cover the cost of us coming up to speed, of us, you know, at least a couple years down the line, when the towns that have decided to do it are up to speed, the police can learn from the other towns. But he thought it wouldn't be cost effective for his town because $30,000 for $1 million of revenue isn't a lot of money for the town. So that's another thing to look at. And I don't know if he's talked to Northborough Police Chief, but he went to a lot of the meetings, the Westboro Police Chief.
And I think he's part of a group too that travels around to various towns, you know, in the US. And I was speaking at something coming up with the National Municipal Association. But he's very well versed in this subject.
So at the June 6th meetings, Teresa suggested Amy that if she'd like to take the initiative to invite Westboro Group to speak before the Board of Selectmen. Did you do that at all?
No, because I don't think, we decided to wait until we saw what the law was going to be, because there were no laws made up. I want to thank we didn't come to agreement that we wanted to ask them.
Well, and that was back when the Board of Selectmen had the authority to, I'm not sure.
I think the Board of Selectmen still do have the authority, but we can't go to ballot. It's the Board of Selectmen and then town meeting.
Yeah, and the Board of Selectmen vote, like what they're proposing, does that have to go to town meeting? Again, the Copeland and Page talks about that they recommend a zoning bylaw and a general bylaw.
So it is kind of it's falling in the selectmen's lap, where before it had to be the selectmen and a town ballot. But if you're in a town that voted no, now it just falls in the selectmen's lap.
Right, there's no ballot.
There's no more ballot.
Yeah.
So,
Which in a way I thought almost was better, the ballot, because then you get the feel from the residents instead of 5 people. Like, we're just 5 people too.
if the Board of Selectmen has the ultimate authority on how this is gonna go, am I understanding that correctly?
Sounds like they don't, that's what I was asking before.
I'm trying to understand what role the Board of Selectmen play in this. Are we writing a bylaw that satisfies
I'll have to get confirmation on that.
their
because-
position?
Because prior to this memo,
Yep.
I believed that it was forget the moratorium. Prior to this memo from Copeland and Page, I believed that it was the Board of Selectmen that were, if the town voted no, the Board of Selectmen, you know, at one of their meetings, could say, we're prohibiting this in town.
Yeah.
So, but then reading this memo, Copeland and Page they're suggesting, I don't think it's required, but they're suggesting that there be not only the zoning to prohibit it, but there also be a general bylaw, which again, usually comes from the Board of Selectmen, to prohibit it.
But the general bylaw would have to go to town meeting, though, not,
I think a general
Okay.
bylaw needs to go.
yeah, if
to
we could
town
get
meeting.
clarity, I think we need
Yeah,
clarity on
because-
exactly what the process is.
Because we don't want to draft a bylaw that regulates the cultivation
they're
and
gonna prohibit it.
distribution if the Board of Selectmen is going to put in a general reg that says it's prohibited.
But what if they,
So
but
we-
if that one doesn't pass, then we need ours.
But, I mean, right, we need something, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense for us to have competing.
Exactly, that's what's so strange
viewpoints
to
on
me.
this. So can we somehow get this on their agenda so that they start a dialogue about it? Because we honestly don't have a lot of time to write a bylaw if we're gonna try and get this done for the town meeting.
And it does seem strange that there would be competing.
Yeah, I mean,
So usually what happens in the past when that happens is the chairman writes a letter to the Board of Selectmen requesting that this be discussed at their next meeting.
okay, I can write a letter.
Yeah, or Kathy writes a letter on behalf of you and signs it. That's basically how it's done. And then at the next meeting, they discuss it, or they get on the agenda, and maybe
Yeah.
Kathy goes and you and Kathy go, or something like that.
I do know, just selfishly, the September meeting, I'm not gonna be here for the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. And I think that it's probably gonna take more than just a week to sort of line this up. But I'll go forward tonight I'll draft a letter, from the planning board to the Board of Selectmen. I'll talk to the town administrator, and then we can talk about in-house, what's the best way to proceed to get it before the selectmen. Do we, is that, and it needs to happen sooner than later because of this year's town meeting already.
I think it's important, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's really important that the selectmen give us some guidance as to which way they're going on this. Because I honestly do not want to waste 2 months' worth of meetings drafting regulations to put it in front of them so they say, no, we never would have accepted this.
Can we get clarity on exactly what the process is, though, so that we know if it is the Board of Selectmen and the planning board that are kind of competing on it? That'd be great, so we understand exactly.
Cool. All right. Okay, anything else on marijuana from the far end, George?
So,
All right, after marijuana comes what?
The only other thing I had at this time was, at the last meeting, Amy had, mentioned that she'd spoken with one of the members of the zoning board of appeals about, the special permit process in town. And the town council had advised us, that if the community wants special permits to run with the applicant.
Oh, run with the land versus run with the owner.
Right.
Right.
So at the last meeting, and there hasn't been a ZBA meeting in between yet, so at the last meeting, I suggested that, the ZBA member, and I've since talked to her, that ran back to her, she's going to bring it up at the next zoning board of appeals meeting, and get some feedback from the zoning board of appeals. The, I think it's can very easily, obviously be, a joint project or a joint article. But where Amy had talked to Fran hadn't talked to the whole, zoning board yet, so she's gonna pursue that with them. Again, it's something that we've always been under the understanding that our special permits only went with the applicant. But we were corrected this year by town council that that's not the case. And if a town wants that to happen, you need to adopt a bylaw. You have to put something in your
Oh,
zoning
okay.
that says that a special permit would just run with the applicant.
And that's what we want.
So I don't know. You all need to discuss that.
Well,
but-
Fran and I were talking about, because in the past, we always thought the special permit went with the owner, and there could be certain applications where it seems like a good idea for that owner, but it might be good to revisit it with every new owner, because if it's something that isn't working and the town isn't for it going forward with it, at least you have a chance with a new applicant to say, okay, this isn't working, or add different conditions, I think,
Yeah.
or,
I like that.
I
That
don't
makes
see a
sense.
downside
Yeah.
right,
to it,
it's only a
really.
protection.
Again, it's something that, you know, and I'll be perfectly honest, I want to say we just made an assumption years ago, but I mean, that, you know, any training I went to, anything, I mean, that was my understanding, it was all of our understanding.
Right.
That, you know, variance goes with land, the special permit goes with the applicant. But that's not the case unless you have a bylaw that says that,
I
so.
definitely think we should have a
I think
bylaw
since
that
we
says that.
always thought that as a community, you know, I don't think this is gonna be, you know.
So
a
if
lot
that's
of
what
heavy
they,
lifting.
I don't, my one concern with that would be if I'm a clever special permit owner. When I go to pass off my less than savory business to the next clever business owner, I'm going to just simply sell the shares of stock in my corporation to that person rather than make this a whole new business with, you know, just sell the assets or whatever. And so now it's a new person stepping into my company, wearing my shoes. Granted, they have some potential liability for whatever debts I'm leaving behind, but if they want to continue my unsavory business, that's the risk that they're going to take. So if we're going to look at a special permit as only running with the individual, we need to make sure that any bylaw states that a change in the ownership of the corporation, i.e. shareholders or members of the LLC or whatever it is, would trigger that special permit.
I think that's kind of dangerous, because if I have a corporation that has 15 people in it, or 15 owners or whatever, if two of us want to retire and be bought out, and two other people want to come in, I mean, you could have every single year, you could have a turnover. I'm not sure
So
that,
you can limit it to a majority then, a majority of the shares. I just think it's a valid concern. It's a legitimate way around the problem. So if we're truly trying to plan to avoid that problem, we have to look at that. But I understand what you're saying, and so perhaps it's a change of the majority of the ownership of the entity,
okay.
rather than just one person.
My guess on something like this is that this is a really simple, you know, to get some language from town council. You know, we're not the first community to do this. So it's, again, it's something that we've always assumed that was in place. So, you know, like I said, Fran's gonna talk to the ZBA. You know, I'm assuming, doing a lot of assumptions here. You know, this should be, you know, I can get some draft language and we
Okay.
can talk about it.
It's fine. If that's what the ZBA wants,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Is staff thinking of anything else that they're going through that they want to sort of do any?
Not at this
Changes on?
point. I mean, we've been talking a lot, and this isn't a zoning, we've been talking a lot about individual driveways. I mean, we've talked about that as a planning board too. But we kind of just, you know, keep having the conversation in hallways. We haven't all sat down and talked about it. And so that's something that we want to do, you know, sooner than later.
Meaning new ones?
Yes, you know, where we have, there seems to be a proliferation right now of people wanting, and I don't know if you're saying this, Michelle, in, you know, your business, of wanting multiple driveways for a single family home. Where, right now, we're
Like a U-shaped driveway? or-
a U-shaped driveway and a separate driveway.
Oh, really?
So a U-shaped driveway in front of their house, and then, you know, a single driveway to a garage. And so, you know, you're looking at 100 feet of frontage, and you've got 3 driveways. That's a
That's
heck of a
insane.
lot of curb cuts
That's insane.
out onto a town road.
I know where one just happened.
And, yeah. And then there's another person right now that we're just trying to convince, sort of just common sense wise, this doesn't really make a lot of sense to us, but we don't have any regulation. So I don't know where, you know, we still have to do some, like I said, some more in-house work. But it wouldn't be a zoning bylaw. It most likely would be probably something about a
Building code.
curb cut or
curb,
something
yeah.
through the DPW because
Yeah,
it's
oh,
street
okay, yeah.
opening or something like that, but.
With the U-shaped driveway, wouldn't you have the straight one that goes to the garage come off of the
That's right.
end of the U?
That's what I would think.
That's what our neighbor, our neighbor has one just like that.
Yeah.
Right, you've got a U-shaped driveway like this, and then this U, it's
It all
like a
depends
little,
on
it's
where
like
the
a
septic
wire.
system is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one, the case that Kathy's talking about is a septic system issue. I'm seeing a lot of people expand their driveways because of the popularity of RVs.
Oh,
So
boy.
that's where you're seeing like widening of the
It
driveways.
just gets better all the time, doesn't it?
Well, they can grow their marijuana and then pack it up, put it
Well,
in
the RV makes
and
it good,
then
did you ever watch Breaking Bad? It makes it
Yeah.
good, like a meth lab, so that's what it is, they're the gateway, there you go.
There are
It's the gateway,
communities that
it's
have,
the gateway vehicle.
there are communities that have, permits needed. And again, it's typically not a planning board, issue, but, they require you have to get a curb cut application.
Yeah.
And so there's, some minimum standards.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense, yeah.
And then it kind of ties into also, what is occurring on South Street. Again, they're not doing anything, illegal. They're proposing, 2 single-family driveways. But, people are aghast at the slope and the,
Yeah.
just overall, the steepness and where they come out on a bad corner. So, that might be something that we can regulate through, some sort of driveway permit, but, so, again, we're talking about that in-house. We've talked about it here a couple times, but not necessarily a zoning bylaw. And then, kind of tying in one other, I was just gonna give you a 2-second update, but kind of ties into zoning too, is, the master plan, RFP is out there, and, we've had, I think as of yesterday, it was like 12, they haven't been returned yet, but I mean, there's 12 firms that have requested, a copy of the RFP.
Oh, good.
So we track it, it's not
That's good.
something, it's listed on the website, but it's not, when you do an RFP or any kind of, procurement like that, you want to keep track of what goes out there. So you just don't put it out there that anyone, you physically have to, contact the town, and we send you out a copy. So, so there's 12 that have gone out so far. So one of the reasons why, we're not, as staff, we're not necessarily, putting together a whole zoning, packet is that we really want to, wait for the master plan. And, granted, that puts us, in another year, going to town meeting, but, I'm not really looking at, aside from the 2 issues that we're working on, I don't think that there are any huge compelling issues that can't wait to see, till it gets flushed out through a master plan, and then, part of the master plan is gonna be an implementation plan, and, what we should, like over the next 5 years, what we should be going to town meeting with as far as some of the big issues.
Right.
So,
So the deadline is the end of September, right, for?
yeah, they have to, they have to submit by the 28th or 29th.
Yeah.
I think it's the 28th.
And then how does it proceed after that?
So then what we'll do is, we'll put together a review panel,
Mhm.
and there'll be, most likely it'll be the chairman of the planning board and myself and the, my assistant town administrator. So we'll set up interviews, then we make, with, the planning board, we make a recommendation to the town administrator as far as, who to hire. And then, part of their proposal to us, the consultant's proposal, is to put together a schedule of when we're gonna start, the public meeting process. And, so we're anticipating that would be in the beginning of November. And so in, once we, it'll probably be either the end of September or beginning of October that we'll put the notice out, for, members to,
Of the
create
public,
master plan.
yeah,
Right,
okay.
Great. Anything else that we need to think about in terms of bylaws or zoning? Okay. Okay.
And and then the only other thing I had on the agenda, you have one set of minutes. Elaine wasn't able to do the August minutes. The August minutes just actually, were able to go up online a couple days ago, so we'll have those for the next meeting. And so the set that you have just has, I think it's just on the first page, Amy.
Yeah.
Amy had just made a couple revisions.
I just took out the word bylaw because you really wouldn't be opting out of recreational bylaws. The bylaw would either be for or against, you're opting out of recreational marijuana, so.
There's missing.
They're still gonna have a
Have a chance to
bylaw,
look.
no matter which way you do it,
So you're missing a period at the end of the first paragraph.
in a period.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance to read them ahead of time.
Oh, this was a long time ago. This was with the cell tower.
Yeah, it's, that was the change in the cell tower, and the main, applicant that night was the, solar panels.
Yep.
At, Mass Electric, or National Grid.
Yep.
So this was, so Elaine's, I think we're now caught up, there was a, I don't have the technical term, but there was something about the cable recordings being switched over, or whatever, there was a new system or something.
Right.
So there was a couple months there where Elaine couldn't, nobody had access to them. So, so I think between this June 1 and then she'll have August and tonight.
Okay.
Page 2, the site plan approval, industrial engineering, the second industrial is missing an L.
Actually, oh wait, where are you? I'm sorry.
Site plan approval, the second page,
Yeah,
first sentence, the second time it says industrial engineering, it says industria.
That's the name of the
actually,
company.
it is industrial.
Oh, then the first one has an L, but it shouldn't be there then?
No, the name of the company,
Oh, he's an industrial engineer representing
Industria.
Industria Engineer.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. So
Wow.
it is correct.
Perfect,
So when you-
perfect, well done.
So when you see Industria Engineering, that's the firm.
Name of the
You
company,
can call
okay.
it Industria, and then that
Oh,
way
really?
you won't be
Okay.
confused by
Oh,
what
that's
just
funny.
happened.
That's funny, okay.
Industria. You put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, and it starts to make sense.
Sensa.
Sensei. While they're reading that, can I ask a question? I was on Far and Whitney Street, okay, not too long ago. Things down there. That's still going on.
Yeah. The, Monday, the 18th, we meaning staff, there's 3 of us that are going to a public hearing on a state law, change to the state law about composting.
Okay.
Because there's other composting issues happening, but Whitney Street we are fearful that Whitney Street could be enveloped, or enveloped in the street, is the word, no. But anyways, so 2 things, the statewide, we've been working with, the town has been working with Senator Harriet Chandler about changing the regulations in Massachusetts about agricultural composting. And right now, it's governed by the Department of Agricultural Resources, and the change to the proposed legislation is a change to the existing law that would change it from the Department of Agriculture to the Department of Environmental Protection. And the selectmen are all attending the hearing. They've submitted testimony. We have the Massachusetts Board of Health Association. We have the Mass Municipal Association. So it's a big push to get the language changed overall. Specifically for Whitney Street, there's absolutely an ongoing issue with Whitney Street. And,
Why is he not in jail? Sorry.
And
Why are you sorry?
What?
Why are you sorry?
the situation remains that we're not allowed on the property. So it's been very difficult to monitor what he is bringing or not bringing, or when he is bringing it onto the site, what is he bringing. This summer, I contacted a lot of the residents in the Coolidge Circle area to ask if they, could report for us, any activity that they're seeing, so. And the next step, he has not fulfilled what the Conservation Commission has asked him to do, which was to apply for a notice of intent. And so the next step that we're talking about with town council is what is the next step? Is what sort of, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's something that the town would file
Injunctive relief.
Yes, thank you, injunctive relief, yeah. So I think that that's our next step.
Wouldn't you just say the current is more on the other side of Whitney's side? The current issues that you're dealing with are more on the other?
Yes, well, I'm not sure what side Teresa is, I think in general, just the whole area probably. But yes, the issues that we're having right now are with 432.
Is it on the south side or the north side?
That,
So the north side,
The north.
because that's the
bigger
one.
side.
The bigger
You
side.
mean the west side or the east side, right? Doesn't that road kind of go?
yeah,
due
actually,
north?
that's how I'm
Is it
thinking of
west?
it. It
It's
would
the
be
east-
or west,
east,
so
yeah.
more
It's
on
right
the
east.
side.
On the east side.
Yeah, that's the one that we're having the,
Oh, and they're getting the smell even over in Coolidge still, or not?
I heard this summer was pretty mild.
we haven't received any complaints.
Okay, so it's
This summer,
because it's on the other side of the street now.
Um,
That's not where he was gonna build his own little house up there?
That's, yeah, he had talked about that.
Well,
But, if you, depends on when you go by,
Yeah, it was a warm day, the roof
We
was
brought
down, and
something
it
in.
was like,
yeah.
What's incredible, and it doesn't, I probably shouldn't, well, I'll tell you guys after.
So you put a road in,
I was
take
behind
it.
one of
Don't
the
let
trucks
road
on the highway, and I was like, oh my God, this smell, what is it? And I couldn't tell what the smell was. I thought it was something in my car that like died. And I drove for like 15 minutes. I was on
Kids weren't in the car, were
495, and I passed a truck, and it was one of those trucks. I'm like, oh my God.
yeah,
I
It was
couldn't
awful.
believe it.
it's awful. Just another
Yeah.
reason to like the winter.
Yeah.
You don't have that problem.
So the ongoing issue as far as, one of the ongoing issues on 432 is the material that he has brought in the past. I don't know if he's bringing it still in, but that he has brought in the past. Our position is that it's not suitable fill or road material, but that's what he is trying to accomplish, is creating a path to the rear of the property. And his contention is that it's animal feed. And we have proven, the town went to considerable expense and hired experts and to prove that it was not animal feed, that it's,
So what
Why
would
does he want to go all the way to the back of the property? What is he trying to do?
Well, he wants to, bring animals in, use the back of the property, but there's a lot of wetlands that, there's an old cart path, and some of the issue comes down to about how you use a cart path, and whether or not you can, you agriculturally exempt. If you are agriculturally exempt, and you have a cart path, can you use the cart path without having to file with the Conservation Commission? What he wants to do is change the location of the cart path, and we've told him time and time again that it's going to require a filing with the Conservation Commission, and he has not done that.
So what is the injunctive relief? What would that do?
An injunctive relief typically requires somebody to stop doing something that they are presently doing.
Okay,
So my assumption would be he would have to stop operations, right?
but he's been forced to do that before, right? Has
He's
he,
been, well, we haven't done an injunctive relief. We've issued cease and desist.
this is stronger, or?
This is an
Yes.
order of the court, and so if you don't cease and, if you don't stop in accordance with the injunction, then you get hauled in on contempt. So
That's-
that
that's-
carries its own type of penalties as well.
And so part of the
Handcuffs,
dilemma
yeah.
though is right now is because we're not allowed on the property,
Yeah.
we don't have a good, record right now of when the material's going in and, you know, how often.
There's gotta be some way to, this is crazy. It's insane. Wow. I don't
Could
envy
fly
your
a drone
position.
over the
This
top.
must be
I think it's
incredibly
he's
frustrating.
he's allegedly running a business, and government doesn't interfere in my business like that, or in anyone else's for that matter, so that's what he's saying, is I'm running a business.
But he's
You
got
can't
a-
interfere in it.
But he has a history of, it's
This
just-
is, yeah, well, it doesn't mean anything.
And his history and the action is on another piece of property.
yeah.
So that's separate.
So it's just, it's hard, and you have to do everything right the first time. You gotta do it all right the first time, so. Well, if you can, good luck at the hearing, the public hearing is coming up. on
Yeah,
that.
so
Hopefully
we'll-
that passes, you just keep us posted on that,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
So do you want to do the minutes or no?
Does anyone have any further
Yeah, I got
changes on the
I got
minutes?
sidetracked by the conversation.
No,
Sorry.
George, you good? Amy, you're good? Amy already made yours. Michelle, you're all set?
Yeah.
And you,
Just went to speed reading school today, and yes, I'm all set.
okay, excellent.
I move that we accept the minutes for the planning board meeting of June, was that 6th? 2017, as amended by Amy.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? There you go.
And then, I just, the ZBA is, I'm not going to be at the meeting, but the ZBA is meeting on the 26th, and I think there's three new hearings and one continued hearing. The continued hearing is for, the gentleman who owns, the, J. Christopher Hair Salon. He's proposing a second building on his property. So that was continued. And then, there's a sign request, two sign requests, and both from fitness places.
Oh, so,
One-
yeah, fitness for, like, the only part of that building that I thought was at all attractive is now gone.
So Bruce has,
Hopefully the new sign will be allowed.
Will be bigger and
soon,
better.
and-
so Boost has become, I think it's called Northborough Fitness, so they're requesting a sign variance. And then there's an Anytime Fitness, I believe that it is, that's coming to the Northborough Crossing area.
Oh, really? That's what Boost was before it was Boost, when it was still in the.
In the old
big
town hall,
building
yeah, the old town
downtown.
hall,
Yeah,
yeah.
the old town hall, maybe. It was Anytime
Right.
Fitness.
Oh, is it Anytime Fitness?
It was, yeah.
It was?
We were trying to.
Yeah, for years upstairs with the,
Yeah, of Boost, of what it was called.
Yeah.
Was it Anytime Fitness?
Yeah,
It was Anytime
definitely.
Fitness.
So Anytime Fitness now is going in where, the plaza, the level where, Bertucci, Applebee's and Margaritas, they're in that,
Oh, it's an interesting place for a
Yeah.
fitness center.
But the sign what they're trying to do is going to be visible from Route 20, right?
yes, yeah, it's for the back of the building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The one that you can see like on the back of,
Yeah,
on the stone wall there?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll be on the building, next to the St. Bees sign.
Oh, okay.
Is it gonna
That's
be
great
neon too,
visibility.
George? Is it gonna be?
Fantastic visibility, it's not what
Yeah.
we envisioned.
I know.
I still remember that.
I just saw
first meeting,
St. V's the
I asked
other
about
day.
Back of that coming off of the exit, and he said, it's gonna be beautiful, glass windows, it'll be a store.
And then the last application is what we had started talking about at the beginning of the meeting, is the expanded parking lot at the dentist building on West Main Street.
Excellent.
The children's dentist? Yeah. Oh, that's what I saw it in the back. Yeah.
Yep, it's where everybody saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She must do good business because,
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
She needs additional parking, so,
would you have to cut into that hill? Wow.
They already did.
How many spaces?
Just no
At
permission.
least, I think you're ready, at least a dozen, right?
yeah, I think it is 12.
Yeah.
It's at least 10, because that's the threshold that you
Oh.
have to file.
So she cut into that hill for another 10? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And she went to the ZBA for that?
She's going to the ZBA.
No.
She's
got
a
caught.
contractor.
Oh. Oh, it's like at the end of my driveway.
Right there. Well, that's what they were saying, like, why does this keep happening?
Oh, I get it. People are driving by and they're like, why are you digging that big hole? And they're
Yes,
like,
exactly.
oh, you need a
Exactly.
permit for that? Yeah, you do. Okay. I get it.
So
Okay.
they've been,
It's all a learning process.
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
All right, and there's a second in there. Aye. Very good, thank you. Thank you.